Hi, I'm Rhonda Buss, and I'm going to walk you through the process of making the Clara dress by So Liberated. Now that we have our sleeves sewn in and our collar in place, the next step on the bodice is to sew in the center front placket with the buttons. It's really quite easy to do. There is the pattern piece that comes with it. It's a nice little rectangular piece. The pattern did not call for interfacing in the placket, but this is one place where I think a little interfacing is a very nice thing. And what I did is I used a lightweight knit fusible interfacing, and I did interface the entire piece. A lot of patterns will tell you to only interface half of it, but this is so lightweight, and with the buttonholes it gives just a nice little extra something behind it to give it a little extra stability. So the first thing that you're going to do is sew the top edge of the placket, and with the seam allowance that's given, trim it down, cut a little angle at the end, and then we'll turn it. This is one of those times where do as I tell you, not as I do. Of course, we're never supposed to stick a pair of scissors into a corner, but I don't have a point turner handy at the moment, so again, do as I say, not as I do. Now that our point is in, we can press that in place. Press the placket in half. Of course, you do the same thing to the other half. Then we're going to match up the seam to the edge of the garment where this collar meets the edge. We'll match that here. This is sewn so that this is sewn down in place. We'll go to the finished garment now, where you can see the plackets have all been sewn in place. They have a nice little top stitch. The buttons have been put on. One thing to think about when you're using buttons is, for some reason, the eye always likes odd numbers. So you really don't want to use 4 buttons. A 5 is much better. So 3, 5, 7. Of course, 3 on this dress would just not be enough, or you'd have a little bit of a wardrobe malfunction going on. So another thing to think about is button placement. What I like to do before I put my buttons on is I like to try the bodice on, and I like to see right where my bust line hits, and I like to put a buttonhole right there. Then that way I know that, again, I don't have something gaping open and showing something that I don't want to show. And of course the buttonholes will go right into the center of the placket. I want to show you how I sew buttons on. I think it's really a very easy way to sew it on. I always keep my needle on top of my fabric. I never go through. That's a little bit too much work, I think. The button that I'm using has 2 small holes. So put the needle through the fabric, pull it through into the button. Make sure you go into both holes. I've done that before where I've only gone into one, and then I have to cut my thread and start all over again. We'll go into the fabric, pull the button. Now you see I'm holding the button away from the fabric. I'll put the needle through. And again. What happens with me holding the button like this is it gives me a little bit of a play where I can have a shank once the button is, I've sewn it on as much as I want it to be sewn on. It'll make it a lot easier to button it. Go through one more time. So now I've got a little play in there. Just wrap it around. Cover the threads that are underneath. We've got a nice little shank. At this point, we'd want to tie the knot, wrap the thread around the button, pick it up, pull it tight, do it one more time. Under, pull it tight. And then the last little thing that I like to do is I like to take my needle and just run right through the shank. Pull it out. Snip my thread. The button is done and ready to go.